Today I would like to invite you to listen to the Dhammapada of the Buddha Shakyamuni, the 125th verse from the Buddhist scriptures on the YouTube channel Thien Thai in the USA. Whoever harms a harmless person, one pure and guiltless, upon that very fool the evil recoils like fine dust thrown against the wind. This verse teaches the profound principle of karmic retribution and ethical vigilance. In the story associated with this verse, there was a village where a wandering mendicant monk, known for his purity and compassion, arrived to teach Dharma. The villagers, out of misunderstanding and envy, sought to harm him, believing that by casting slander or even physical aggression, they would gain advantage or remove a perceived threat. Yet, despite their actions, the monk remained unharmed, his mind unshaken, his body untouched by misfortune. Just as the verse says, the harm intended toward him recoiled upon those who attempted it, like fine dust, carried and dispersed by the wind, unable to touch the pure. The monk's ethical cultivation, purity of heart, and mindfulness created a natural protection, a shield of virtue that made him impervious to malice. This story illustrates clearly the Buddha's teaching that harming the innocent does not succeed. Rather, the consequences of ill will return to the one who harbors and acts upon them. The fool, who acts with hatred or aggression toward one who is pure, plants seeds that inevitably bear the fruit of suffering. The verse reminds the disciple that ethical conduct, mindfulness, and harmlessness are not only moral principles, but also practical safeguards, protecting both heart and mind from the consequences of wrongdoing. The teaching emphasizes that intention is the seed of karmic consequence. When one harms, the intention, born of anger, jealousy, or ignorance, sets in motion the conditions for suffering to return to the mind that creates it. Just as the monk in the story remained unharmed due to his purity, mindfulness, and ethical practice, the disciple learns that the cultivation of harmlessness, patience, and compassion creates a protective field around the mind and heart. Harm cannot affect the ethically cultivated because the causes of suffering, greed, hatred, and delusion have been restrained. The fool, however, who acts out of malice against the harmless, unknowingly binds themselves to the fruits of their own unwholesome deeds. This is the natural law of karma, subtle yet inexorable, like fine dust dispersed in the wind returning to the one who throws it when they are unprotected by mindfulness and virtue. This verse teaches the profound power of ethical integrity and moral vigilance. The disciple observes that actions toward others are never isolated. They ripple outward and return according to the seeds planted by intention. Harming those who are guiltless, pure, or harmless creates karmic consequences that inevitably return, affecting the one who harms. The story of the monk in the village demonstrates the natural protection afforded by purity, ethical cultivation, and mindfulness. Because he had cultivated harmlessness, compassion, and patience, no external force could disturb the serenity of his mind or bring suffering upon him. The one who acted with aggression or envy, on the other hand, found that their intended harm rebounded, creating mental agitation, karmic imbalance, and subtle suffering. The verse reminds the disciple that ethical behavior is both a moral compass and a protective practice, ensuring the mind remains undisturbed while unwholesome actions rebound upon those who create them. The Buddha's teaching here emphasizes that purity of heart and ethical awareness are shields against the consequences of evil. The disciple who cultivates harmlessness, patience, and mindful reflection ensures that ill will directed at them cannot penetrate or disturb the mind. The monk in the story experienced this directly, remaining serene and unharmed despite the villagers' attempts at aggression. Ethical cultivation, combined with mindfulness and compassion, creates a natural immunity to harm and suffering. Conversely, those who act with malice, envy, or hatred toward the guiltless fail to recognize that the natural law of cause and effect ensures that suffering arises inevitably from such intentions. The harm they attempt to inflict recoils upon themselves, like dust scattered by the wind, subtle yet unavoidable, highlighting the necessity of cultivating ethical integrity and awareness in every thought, word, and deed. This teaching also reveals the subtle consequences of harming the innocent. The fool, in acting out of aggression toward the guiltless, not only plants seeds of suffering for the future, but experiences immediate mental agitation, guilt, and disruption of clarity, even if external consequences do not appear instantly. The mind of the one who harms is burdened by unwholesome intentions. The monk's serenity, in contrast, illustrates the stability of a mind cultivated in ethical conduct, patience, and compassion. By refraining from harming others, especially the pure and harmless, the disciple preserves the clarity, steadiness, and peace of mind that are essential for awakening. Ethical practice thus serves both as a moral guideline and as a practical method for safeguarding consciousness and promoting spiritual development. The analogy of fine dust thrown against the wind highlights the natural law of cause and effect, emphasizing that harm directed toward the innocent disperses without effect, while rebounding upon the one who acts unethically. This serves as both a warning and a guide for the disciple. Actions rooted in malice, greed, or hatred inevitably carry consequences, even if temporarily hidden. The monk's example teaches that ethical cultivation creates a natural defense, while harmful intentions create vulnerability and suffering. Every act of aggression toward the guiltless plants seeds of karmic retribution. By understanding this principle, the disciple learns to cultivate patience, compassion, and ethical vigilance, ensuring that the mind remains pure, steady, and free from the subtle or overt effects of wrongdoing. This verse also inspires reflection on the importance of intention and awareness in ethical conduct. Harmful actions arise not merely from physical acts, but from subtle thoughts of ill will, envy, or resentment. The disciple learns to observe the mind carefully, discerning unwholesome tendencies before they manifest externally. Through mindful awareness and ethical restraint, the disciple prevents harm both to self and others, cultivating a mind that is resilient, serene, and clear. Just as the monk in the story remained unharmed despite the villagers' attempts at aggression, the ethically cultivated mind remains uninjured by the malice or misunderstanding of others, reflecting the protective power of virtue, mindfulness, and harmlessness. Moreover, the verse teaches that ethical cultivation is a dynamic and active process requiring consistent vigilance. Harmlessness, patience, compassion, and mindfulness must be practiced continually, moment by moment. Each interaction, each word spoken, and each thought examined becomes an opportunity to cultivate purity and prevent harm. The one who seeks to harm the guiltless without mindfulness plants seeds that inevitably bear the fruit of suffering. while the ethically vigilant practitioner ensures that the mind remains serene, clear, and untainted by malice. Ethical cultivation is thus both a protective practice and a source of merit, reinforcing the mind's natural resilience and supporting the gradual unfolding of insight and awakening. The Buddha's teaching in the 125th verse emphasizes the interdependence of ethical action, intention, and protection from harm. The disciple learns that harming the innocent not only fails to achieve any real benefit, but also sows seeds of suffering for oneself. The monk in the story embodies this teaching through serene presence, mindfulness, and ethical cultivation. His purity and restraint create a natural protection against harm, illustrating vividly the principle that ethical integrity shields both mind and heart. The one who acts with malice toward the guiltless is like dust scattered against the wind. Their harmful actions disperse without effect on the innocent, yet return to disturb and unsettle the one who commits them. Through consistent practice, the disciple internalizes the teaching, cultivating patience, harmlessness, and mindfulness in every thought, word, and deed. Ethical vigilance becomes a habitual and natural expression of awareness, ensuring that the mind remains free from the subtle or overt effects of unwholesome actions. Life transforms into a living field of Dharma, where every interaction offers an opportunity to cultivate virtue, prevent harm, and nurture merit. The karmic principle taught in this verse becomes apparent in daily experience. Harming the guiltless inevitably results in suffering for the one who acts unethically, while harmlessness and ethical cultivation produce protection, clarity, and the steady accumulation of merit. The disciple who reflects upon the 125th verse gradually recognizes the subtle yet powerful workings of karma, understanding that ethical behavior is inseparable from the stability and clarity of the mind. Just as the monk in the story remained unharmed despite the malice directed toward him, the mind that is cultivated in harmlessness, patience, and mindfulness cannot be touched by the harmful intentions of others. Each thought rooted in kindness, each word spoken with compassion, and each action undertaken with awareness creates a protective field that shields the mind from disturbance, just as purity and restraint naturally protect the monk from the consequences of those who sought to harm him. This understanding encourages the disciple to cultivate vigilance over the mind, observing the arising of anger, envy, or ill will, and transforming these tendencies before they manifest in action. Through such mindful practice, the disciple gradually develops an inner sanctuary of peace, clarity, and resilience, where external misfortunes and the malice of others cannot penetrate, illustrating the profound practical wisdom contained in the Buddha's teaching. The teaching of this verse extends beyond mere avoidance of harm. It emphasizes proactive cultivation of virtue, ethical awareness, and compassionate action. The disciple learns that protection arises not from avoidance alone, but from the positive development of the mind and heart. Just as a hand uninjured by wounds is unaffected by poison, the mind free from unwholesome intentions, greed, anger, and delusion remains unshaken in the face of adversity. Ethical integrity becomes both a shield and a foundation for the cultivation of merit, insight, and spiritual growth. The story of the monk in the village serves as a vivid illustration. Despite external threats, his unwavering adherence to ethical principles and compassionate Awareness ensured that harm had no effect, demonstrating the inseparable link between virtuous living and natural protection. The disciple also recognizes that harming the innocent carries consequences both subtle and overt. When one acts out of aggression, malice, or jealousy, the mind itself becomes disturbed, burdened by unwholesome intentions. These subtle disturbances affect clarity, concentration, and insight, creating vulnerability even in the absence of external harm. The one who acts unethically toward the guiltless experiences the recoil of their actions. As described in the verse, like fine dust thrown against the wind, their harmful acts scatter and return to disturb them. The ethical cultivation of the mind, in contrast, maintains equanimity, steadiness, and clarity, preventing harm from taking root. By consistently practicing mindfulness, compassion, and harmlessness, the disciple fortifies the mind, ensuring that ethical vigilance becomes habitual and the fruits of merit and insight can unfold naturally. The Buddha's teaching here encourages reflection upon the interconnectedness of ethical action and the natural law of karma. Every harmful action directed toward an innocent person carries an inherent cause and effect relationship. The harm does not reach the innocent, but instead returns to the one who initiates it. This principle highlights the importance of intention in every thought, word, and deed. The disciple learns to observe carefully the arising of unwholesome tendencies and to transform them through mindfulness, ethical restraint, and compassionate reflection. Through diligent practice, the mind becomes like the monks, serene, resilient, and untouched by the malice or misunderstanding of others. Ethical cultivation is not only a moral guideline, but a practical safeguard, ensuring that the disciple remains protected, aware, and aligned with the Dharma. The story of the monk also teaches patience, compassion, and equanimity as natural expressions of ethical cultivation. Confronted with malice, the monk did not react with anger, resentment, or fear. Instead, he remained calm, observing the situation with clarity and understanding, knowing that ethical integrity protects the mind from harm. The disciple learns that patience is both protective and transformative. By refraining from retaliation, harboring no ill will, and maintaining mindfulness, the mind is preserved, and the natural consequences of harm return to the one who acts unethically. Compassion arises naturally when the disciple recognizes the suffering underlying the actions of those who commit harm, understanding that their suffering is the fruit of unwholesome intentions. In this way, patience and compassion reinforce ethical vigilance, protecting the mind and nurturing awakening. The verse also encourages the disciple to cultivate awareness of the subtle workings of karma in daily life. Harms, offenses, and acts of malice may appear small or insignificant, yet they carry consequences that inevitably return to the actor. The monk in the story illustrates that ethical cultivation, mindfulness, and restraint protect the mind from both visible and subtle harms. The disciple learns that every moment offers an opportunity to observe intentions, correct unwholesome tendencies, and reinforce ethical integrity. By acting with care, practicing harmlessness, and cultivating compassion, the disciple creates a mind naturally resilient to the effects of harmful actions, ensuring that external circumstances, misunderstanding, or malice cannot disturb the clarity and serenity of consciousness. Ethical cultivation, as illustrated by this verse, is a continuous and dynamic practice. Harmlessness, patience, mindfulness, and compassion must be exercised moment by moment. The disciple observes the mind, discerns unwholesome tendencies before they manifest in speech or action, and continuously nurtures virtue. Each ethical decision, each mindful response to life's challenges, strengthens the mind and reinforces the natural protection arising from virtue. Over time, this continuous cultivation transforms ordinary experience into a living practice of Dharma, where the mind remains undisturbed, serene, and clear, and the disciple experiences both protection from harm and the steady accumulation of merit leading toward awakening. The disciple who internalizes the teaching of this verse recognizes that harming the innocent is ultimately self-defeating. The natural law of cause and effect ensures that the harm rebounds upon the one who acts unethically, creating subtle suffering, disturbance, and karmic imbalance. The monk's example shows that ethical cultivation shields the mind from external disturbances, while unwholesome actions, even if directed toward others, disturb and burden the one who commits them. By cultivating harmlessness, patience, and mindfulness, the disciple fortifies the mind, develops clarity and equanimity, and ensures the natural unfolding of insight and compassion. Ethical vigilance, practiced consistently, creates a fertile ground for awakening, joy, and the accumulation of merit, while protecting the mind from subtle and overt consequences of wrongdoing. The teaching of the 125th verse also highlights the importance of intention and awareness in ethical living. Harming the guiltless produces no real benefit. Instead, it binds the mind to karmic consequences, subtle agitation, and eventual suffering. Conversely, the ethical cultivation of harmlessness, patience, and compassion ensures that the mind remains serene, steady, and resilient. By observing the arising of unwholesome tendencies, correcting harmful thoughts before they manifest, and practicing virtuous action, the disciple maintains a mind free from disturbance and aligned with the Dharma. The story of the monk exemplifies this principle, demonstrating that ethical cultivation is both protective and transformative, guiding the disciple along a steady path of awakening. Through continuous practice, the disciple internalizes the teaching deeply, cultivating mindfulness, harmlessness, patience, and compassion in every thought, word, and deed. Life becomes a living field of Dharma, where each interaction provides an opportunity to cultivate virtue, prevent harm, and nurture merit. The karmic principle articulated in this verse becomes evident in daily experience. Harmful actions directed at the innocent inevitably rebound upon the one who acts unethically, while harmlessness and ethical vigilance protect the mind, cultivate merit, and allow the steady unfolding of insight and awakening. The disciple learns that the protection of the mind and the heart arises naturally through ethical cultivation, mindfulness, and compassionate practice. Thank you for watching my video. Namalamat Ba. I wish to bring this merit towards all disciples and sentient beings, all of whom will attain Buddhahood. Remember to like, share, and subscribe to my YouTube channel. I really appreciate your time.